Good morning. That went down well. It was a great start. Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. We've got lots to talk about in the Celtic news this morning from the One Celtic Fans View. But as we do, as always, we jump into the chat. First of all, just to acknowledge and say good morning to the people that are in the chat, as we always do on this channel, because it is the One Celtic Fans View, and we are all entitled to our views on the channel. First up was Tarmac. Let me just turn this down because we're going to get feedback at some point. Tarmac was in the house, Jim F was in the house, Desmond Donnelly was in the house, Dave Hislop was in the house, Grab Boys 7 was in the house, morning boys and girls. Jim F is in the house, Jamesy Boy is in the house, and Carly is in the house. Good morning, all my beautiful human beings. Jamesy Boy is first in to talk about Bane. I think that's the noise that goes on in Bane's head when he plays football for Celtic. It has to be. It's circus stuff inside his head. We'll talk about him in a couple of minutes. Jamesy Boy, let me say Dave Hislop, Desmond Donnelly, and Craig is in also. Good morning to you, Craig. Jerry Cassidy and Tam Mack is in the house, and also is Gary Haycroft. And Big Rab B Niz is in the house also. Right, first of all, we've got an exclusive they want to talk about. Well, it's not exclusive. It broke last night that Celtic are about to appoint a senior role. Remember, Celtic are currently without a director. No, it's not a director of football. It's a Brendan Rodgers got rid of the folk that buy the players, the scouting staff. Yes, and it was Mark Lawwell and his mate. And we all remember the players that Mark Lawwell and his mate come in. But Celtic, in fair dues to Brendan Rodgers, called them out for making a mess of the Adam Idah situation. And the Adam Idah situation went to cost us £9 million. When ultimately we could have had Adam Idah for £3 million if we had an agreed thing in place. But anyway, Celtic are set to bring in former Exeter City boss Paul Teasdale to revamp the club's football operations. He describes himself as a football doctor. The 51-year-old Teasdale has been working as a self-employed consultant. Now remember, Celtic went down this route before with Gordon Strachan. I don't know if Gordon Strachan's still at Dundee, but Celtic brought in Gordon Strachan for 3 months to evaluate the football departments under Don Mackay. Don Mackay, the guy that was brought in from rugby to be a brand new Don for Scottish football and a brand new way for Celtic to go. And he wasn't part of the Lawwell in crowd. So he quickly departed Celtic, which is unfortunate because I think the things that he had envisioned for Celtic to come would have been fantastic, but we kind of got there in the end. But anyway, describing himself as a football doctor, the former Southampton midfield player also coached at MK Dons, Bristol Rovers and Stevenage throughout a managerial career that's seen him has over 1,000 games in the dugout. So he does have a lot of football experience. After Mark Lawwell and Joe Dudgeon got the sack back in March, Celtic have been without a head of recruitment. So there's just been the recruitment team working directly with Brendan Rodgers to make sure that Brendan Rodgers hand picks the players that he wants at the club. And if you remember back to the summer where Brendan Rodgers did say, what do you want? We could have brought in 9 players by now. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, having a little dig at the previous occupants of those posts. But Teasdale currently calls himself a football doctor, he told a scouting podcast. He says that he tries to find improvements that can be made using solutions such as data and also his experience as a coach. Now, this is where it's really impressive by Celtic, because we all know that Brendan Rodgers is massive when it comes to looking at the stats, and he likes to know the stats of absolutely everything about every player and the opponents. And that's how he progresses the team. And he did that his first time at Celtic. And he was absolutely fabulous with it, the manager, you have to say. But the fact that he's getting Teasdale in to oversee football operations, it's going to be interesting, because this guy sees himself as a continuous professional development coach and mentoring guy. He's currently in a period where he's working for himself, waiting on that one big thing to take off. And it looks like that one big thing is about to take off, with the Mail breaking the news last night as he's about to take over the role at Celtic. He missed a game, funnily enough. He missed a game at Euro 2024. This is when you know that there's meat on the bone to this. He missed a game at Euro 2024 this summer, one of the England games, the England-Netherlands game, because he was at Queen's Park at Celtic game. You remember that pre-season game right at the very start of pre-season? He was taking in the Celtic Queen's Park game. These appointments are never made off the cuff. These appointments always take time to come to fruition. And these type of appointments, each side has to make sure that it's a good fit for each other. Celtic will want to make sure that, and Brendan Rodgers ultimately will want to make sure that he's getting the right person for the job that he sees to help the recruitment and build the type of Celtic that he's looking for ultimately in the future. So is it Brendan getting one of his mates in? And I don't think so. There doesn't seem to be any correlation between them ever working together before. But it's interesting that it did come out that he missed the England-Netherlands game because he was at the Queen's Park Celtic game. So it's an interesting time, and it's a fantastic time for Celtic because I think he's coming in at the right moment. And could this be one of the first times in a long time that Celtic are going to build from a position of strength? That's the question this morning. Is it the fact that he is? Welcome, Andreas. Is it the fact that Celtic are finally going to build from a position of strength? We've done it. We've been many times since back in 2003. We've got ourselves in front. We've got ourselves to a nice position. We've got ourselves to a Europa final. And then we kind of backpedaled for a few years. And I think that the worry from a lot of Celtic fans is we came in, Ange came in, did wonderful things domestically. It was an absolute nightmare in Europe. Brendan Rodgers has come in. He wasn't too clever in Europe last year. Are Celtic, a lot of fans are saying, are Celtic just happy to just be there in Europe and not compete at the highest level? And especially after the Dortmund result, a lot of fans are saying, look, Celtic would be just giving up on the Champions League. But they won't, because they want that £50 million in every year, which helps the bank balance, which helps the business, which helps Brendan Rodgers ultimately bring in better players. And if this guy, Teasdale, comes in and he can bring in the type of players that Brendan wants, and we're not talking about £1 or £2 million signings anymore. I think that we are levelling up, and it could only be a good thing. So that was the news last night that Teasdale, who was manager of Exeter MK Dons, remember who came from MK Dons, Bristol Rovers and Stevenage, is going to be taking over the recruitment department and football operations, allegedly. We'll see if he's in charge of football operations as a whole, taking over all teams. And maybe we'll look at the whole football structure so that we get better players through the academy. And that's where we go on to the game last night. Yes, Sligo Rovers versus Celtic. We're going to read the Celtic post on it first of all, just to get your appetite wet for the Sligo Rovers Celtic game last night, which ended 3-2. No one saw the 3-2 result coming, let's be perfectly honest. The Sevconians in the world were sitting on their keyboards waiting, just waiting to say something. But the relevant mob across the road can't, because Celtic won 3-2. It was an entertaining win for Celts as Luís Palma grabbed a hat-trick at the showgrounds in Sligo. And Celtic reconnected with their Irish roots in a wonderful friendly against Sligo Rovers. Oh, it sounds so romantic, doesn't it? It wasn't an entertaining win. It was a struggle. Who in the comment section thinks it was an entertaining win? Who in the comment section thinks it was really an entertaining win? With only minutes into the game, Celtic did go ahead, and you're thinking, yeah, they're playing. You've got the B team. They play the exact same way that the first team plays, so you could see that coming into the team, and then you're thinking, Scott Bain's in goals. Scott Bain let it go through his hands and into the back of the net over his head, and you're thinking, if Sinisalo's not away with his club, with his country, which I think he is, it's proof in the pudding that we need to bring a goalkeeper through the system at Celtic that's ultimately better than Scott Bain and has more potential than Scott Bain. Scott Bain, we'll just leave it there. And we'll go on to another Celtic goalkeeper before we talk about the rest of the game. Boy for Benny Offer says, got to put things into perspective. Playing shite teams week in, week out, totally having to change the style. But we don't change our style. Mentality of big teams, any team would struggle. Sligo Rovers on a big team. But anyway, let's talk about another Celtic goalkeeper whilst we are talking about Celtic goalkeepers. There is a Celtic goalkeeper that Celtic do see as one for the future. He is on loan at Dunfermline, and we will get back to the Sligo Rovers game in just a minute because we're talking about goalkeepers. Scott Bain, I don't think that Celtic should have Scott Bain anywhere near the first team, but I think that young Toby, who's playing at Dunfermline, should be. He is playing at Dunfermline, but he's currently injured. Dunfermline went through the first 3 games of the season unbeaten with young Toby in goals. They've missed him because he's currently injured. He's been back at Celtic, which is interesting. He's been back to Celtic to get some rehab whilst he goes back. He's been going back. Do you hear that? This is what I've had to put up with for 3 days. But it's great. It's absolutely great. I love it. The fact he is on... He's at Dunfermline on loan for the season. He's had a cracking start to the season. He's had a thigh strain that he picked up against East Fife last month. And he's missed the defeats to Partick Thistle and Queen's Park and a draw with Airdrie. And Dunfermline fans are saying, look, he's a better keeper. He's the best keeper we've got. We need to get him back. The Pars were unbeaten as the Celtic player, Celtic loanee, had a fantastic start, but he's on his way back. They're saying they're on his way back. Hopefully he'll be back for the visit of Morton on October the 19th at Dunfermline. So it'll be interesting to see how he progresses this season, because I think that time is about up on Scott Bain's career, and that's where the correlation of this story is. So I think that if young Toby does do well he is doing well at Dunfermline. You've got to remember he was in Austria on loan last year, and I think that's just to give him game time and get him playing on a regular basis. When I watched the Dunfermline game against it was Raith Rovers, I think I watched. I can't remember. It was the Raith Rovers game. He played just like a Celtic keeper. He played the position like a normal Celtic keeper does. And even the Dunfermline commentators were commenting the fact that he doesn't play like a normal goalkeeper would for Dunfermline. He plays exactly like a Celtic goalkeeper. So I think that get young Toby back and get him as the backup keeper. And because he's not only going to be the number 3 goalkeeper at Celtic, in about a year or two's time, he's going to be the number 2 goalkeeper at Celtic. I think when the one and only clean sheet Kasper Schmeichel leaves. Anyway, and young Sinisalo ups his game and steps into the hot seat in between the goals. And it'll be good to see young Toby as number 2 goalkeeper. But how long can you keep a keeper like that as number 2? That's the big issue. That is the big issue. I checked the score, it was 2-0. Didn't know the score this morning. I'm fucking delighted, says Carly. Yes, you didn't know that we won. We won last night. Let's get back to the game. And it was... There was some plus points to take from the game. Luís Palma, we'll think he's a world beater this morning. He scored 3 goals against Sligo Rovers. And you've got to say that the third goal, the defender was caught missing. Any defender in the SPFL won't give Luís Palma that much space. He did score goals. The way that Brendan Rodgers is expecting the front 3 to work together, I thought that young Turley completely hit a ball in the centre of the box, which allowed Palma to score. If Turley had connected with that, it would have been fantastic to see young Turley scoring in Ireland last night. He would have loved that. But we need to talk about the 12th minute. I could cry. On the 12th minute of the game, Scott Bain jumped up to catch a ball, and it goes through his hands, and it drops down behind him and into the goal. Scott Bain. Tell me in the comment section, give me one word for Scott Bain. Give me one word for Scott Bain. I thought it was a game that Celtic should have showed their prowess, but they didn't. So let's listen to the one and only Brendan Rodgers and see what Brendan Rodgers said about the game last night. I'll just do this and then we'll click on this.
Yeah, it was good. It was a really good exercise for us, and a lot of our senior players got 90 minutes in, which was great. The second half was much better than the first. Better tempo, better rhythm, and more speed in our game. So we were very good in the second half. But no, excellent, obviously, to come out here to Ireland. And you can see with Sligo, great little test for us and how they played and how they worked. And overall, really pleased.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that, Brendan. Sligo Rovers, they actually played some pretty good football. What did you make of their
Yeah, very good. Well, you can see why, the top 6 team in the League of Ireland to be fighting for European football at a good level of fitness. And they passed the ball well, passed it with confidence, moved it well. So that was a real good test, especially for some of our boys that haven't played for a little bit of time. But as the game went on, we just were more aggressive in the game, just pushed into higher start positions, and that allowed us then to attack a lot more, and you've seen that a lot of the second half.
A lot of young players used tonight, Brendan. The minutes in the legs for them. What lessons do you think they'll take from this game, and how do they move forward?
Physicality, I think a lot of them need to improve on that aspect. Again, it's they need to have more running power. They need to get in contention more. They have talent with the ball, but it's nowhere near enough. So that physicality allows them to play at a higher tempo. But it's nice for them to feel that and get out there and play in front of a crowd and play with that personality that you need to play for Celtic. And some of them did really, really well.
It's officially now the international break for you and the wider team. What's the plan now before Aberdeen a week on Saturday?
Well, we've got a couple of free days. I've obviously got the foundation event down in London on Friday for the club, so I look forward to that. A little bit of rest, but then obviously planning ahead for that really exciting game and the first game back. So looking forward to that, and we will we'll have a couple of days to recover now. It's been a long period of games, 7 games, 23 days. So a little bit of recovery time, and then we'll looking forward to getting everyone back in preparing for the Aberdeen game.
Well, it's been a bit of a cold one here in Sligo,
Very
Brendan.
cold day.
We'll let you get inside and get warm. Thanks
Brilliant.
for joining
Cheers,
us.
thank you.
Thank you. Brendan Rodgers feeling the cold in Ireland last night. I'm sure he'll try and head over to his holiday home for a couple of days of warmer weather.
It's been a long.
Just checking that. Let's jump into the comments and see what some people are saying. In fact, before we do that, it was interesting that Brendan says that he's going down to London with the Celtic Foundation, which made me think back to the 1980s and the late 70s and early 80s when there was one of my great aunties moved from the one and only Hamilton area to America as a fundraiser. Yes. And that's all I'm saying. She was a fundraiser. Yes. That was it. Anyway, and it was interesting that he was also talking about the younger players. I hope, talking about younger players and the physicality of the players, I hope that when James Forrest hangs up his boots, he is given a role in the Celtic Academy as some kind of coach and some kind of fitness level coach. Because we all remember when James Forrest broke through, the size of James Forrest's thighs were absolutely huge at one point. And he could run like there was nobody on earth. And he was the fastest over 10 yards by miles in the club for years. And I hope that Celtic get him in as some kind of sprinting coach, because that's what Brendan Rodgers is talking about, but he's also talking about upper body strength. So Celtic need to get these young guys, and I know they're still going through an age where they're developing, their bodies are developing, they're not sort of at the 20-year-old mark yet, but get them into the gym, start working on their upper body, because that's what Brendan Rodgers is talking about, and then pace. Ultimately, it's pace. They're not fast enough, and I would like to see James Forrest in the future take up some kind of role in the academy that sees him just motivate players and tell them how important it is to have pace. It's not just about having the skill. Brendan Rodgers says, look, they've got the football ability, but if you're as slow as a flipping train, you're not going to get anywhere. If you're as slow as an old 3 wooden bike. But anyway, we move on from that, and that was an interesting chat from Brendan Rodgers. And there was a couple of Celtic players that I thought that made an impact last night. Luke McCowan, I thought he showed that he can take over from Callum McGregor in the future, which was good to see. Sean McCardle did well when he came on. There was another young guy. Let me just see the team. McCardle done well when he came on. Turley done okay. He needs to work on his upper body strength, Turley, though. Welsh, Rocky, they didn't have much to do, really, did they? But Bain, just get him gone. Alex Baye, I thought he could have done better. He was okay, but I think we were expecting, personally, I mean, the fact that Celtic have come out and said, I mean, their opening statement in the report last night, it was an entertaining win for Celtic. It was anything but entertaining. It was very anything but for entertaining. I mean, 10 minutes into the second half, my missus was like, I'm going to go to my bed, this is boring. And she did. She went away to her bed and the rest of us sat watching it. It was absolutely, yeah. Alex Todd says, brilliant, fell asleep 2-1, woke up 3-2, didn't have to watch it. No, you didn't. And don't believe what Celtic say, it wasn't an entertaining game whatsoever. Anyway, Desmond Donald says, it was definitely a B-team game to watch. Lucky Marlon says, why is he not in the chat? Where's his name? Who are you talking about? Andres, welcome to the One Celtic Fans View. There has to be a young Scottish keeper that can take Bain's place, says Richard. I think we've got a young Scottish keeper in the B team already, but I just don't think that he's ready for third team place. I think he would find himself wasting away. And what Celtic are trying to do is make sure that the younger players get as much game time as possible before they enter into the fray with the team. And let's face it, Bain's not going to get a game. A third choice keeper would be there, and he's just going through the motions. But I understand what you're saying. I think that we should have put on a bit of a performance last night, and we didn't really. Kevin says that was a real shit game. Bain was a top class juggler. Scott Bain. Let's just leave it at that. Off to work, have a good day, says James Boy. And he's just joined the membership. Talking about Andreas. We just see some more in the comments. Boy for Benny over. Yeah, we didn't change and we got pumped. We changed, we still get beat by the elite. Sticking to our game is the way to go. 3 points dropped, 7-1 or 2-1. At least we might get results in other games. Don't ask Scott Bain about anything. Didn't see the game last night. Seems Palma had a great game. And Bain was poor. William. Palma didn't have a great game. He was good, but he didn't take on. He never had a great. Don't listen to the Celtic. He didn't have a great game. He scored 3 goals, and any winger that was playing in that position last night when the balls came through would have scored 8 goals. Palma, I thought he should have took on players better. If Palma thinks he's a Honduran international player to play at the highest level, and he goes to Sligo Rovers, and he doesn't take on players, you're expecting him to up his game and show his class. And he didn't. Let's be brutally honest, he didn't. And people that watch the game will tell you that he didn't. He wasn't that impressive. I mean, he was good, but he wasn't standoutish, if you know what I mean. Carly says, let Don be good stuff, but Christmas clean sheet could decorate. Like decorating. Anyway, asked the chat about Bain and give me one word. What do you think about Scott Bain? Pain, tube, crap, problem. Just to name a few. Flop, shit, disaster. Credit must go to Sligo Rovers as they nearly put up against the Celtic B team. They did that. Can't wait to play Aberdeen, says Carly. Only 141 thumbs up. Get the thumbs up. There is currently 141 people, of 143, watching live. This early morning, and I thank everyone that does watch these early morning ones. Forrest is ready helping coach young players, the same as Brownie did, so that's good. Big Rat, I didn't know that, and I hope that he does he continues with that, because he's going to be a fantastic addition to Celtic. And there's nothing better, especially when you've got someone of James. I know we've got Darren O'Dea and we've got McManus there, but they never really reached the heights that James Forrest has as a player, have they? And especially for the longevity. And I think there'd be no better motivation for a younger player to get coached by James Forrest. I mean, they'll be starstruck to start with, but then you've got James Forrest telling you how to play the game. If you need to do more running, if you need to do more sprinting, I just think it's going to be fantastic that he is doing that. Carly says, I didn't even know what the score, who was playing for us last night. Bain was all I had to hear, and then lost interest. Yep. Palma and Yang should be nowhere near the first team, says Wicks. Exactly. Palma and Yang. It was their turn. It was their game to shine last night. It was their game to. I think Yang tried to take on players, but he was woeful at it. Really woeful at it. And you're talking about levels. These guys should have shown their class last night, and they didn't. It's as simple as that. So yeah, should they be nowhere near the first team? No, they should be near the first team, but I think they are two players that will know that they will have to fight, and we already know that Luís Palma knows that he has to fight for his position at Celtic. He knows that it's not guaranteed. It's been even suggested that he's been asked if he wants to go out and get some game time to work on his fitness and stuff and get better as a player. And he said to Brendan, no, I want to stay and fight, which is a good thing. But you need to then put in the performances. Desmond Donnelly says, got his own granddaughters doing the school run. Know your voice now, Baz. Is that Baz, Papa? God. Oh, it's great having granddaughters over, isn't it? It's brilliant. Big Rabbi says, Palma isn't a winger, but he got a hat-trick. Can't moan about that. Full stop. Yeah, you can't moan about it, but anybody that was in those positions that Palma got himself in last night would have scored the goals. I think he was lucky that young Turley completely missed-kicked the ball in the middle of the goal, because he would have scored it. Yang twanged all over the bar, wasteful, great build-up play. Yep. Yeah, they should have gave that translator a go. What game did you watch? McCowan was shit. First hand, lost the ball for both Sligo goals, says Kevin. Overall, his positional play was good, and I thought overall he had a good game, I thought. But there we go. He was all over the pitch. You can't deny that. If you look at the heat map of McCowan last night, he was all over the pitch doing the kind of stuff that Callum McGregor does. You're only as good as the players that are around you. And sometimes you've seen it at Celtic. In the first team. You get dragged down to the level sometimes, and it's hard to try and pull players up to your level. And sometimes players get dragged down to the level of players that are around about them, and that's no fault of their own. But Luke was one of the. He was one. If you look at the stats for Luke, I mean, the manager would be glad that he got the minutes into his leg. And anyway, it's all about opinions, Kev. And come on, you can't blame him for. You can't blame him for the second goal. The keeper should have had that all day long. I don't care what happens in the middle of the park and who gives the ball away, but the keeper letting the ball go through his hands and drop right behind him. It's not as if it was a powerful shot and it went through his hands and smashed into the back of the net. It drops out his hands and then bounces over the line. And you're like, and then the other one where he's diving down and he totally misses it and it goes under him. You're like, come on, Jesus. Scott Bain. Who is Scott Bain, says Carly? Yeah, Scott Bain is James McCarthy in disguise. Jesus. You all get your breakfast appetizers. Big Ramsey says our backroom team has John Kennedy, has been with the club since the 90s. He's an outstanding coach. He has been a massive part of the club. Buy and sell players on for big money. Winner. Yep, he has that. Anyway, let's get out some other. Not Celtic news, but it's Celtic related, because it's Ryan Christie, and we're going to finish off on happy notes. We like to go back to the old and finally moments that used to get in the news in the good old days when the news would like to finish on a happy note, because generally the news is pretty crap. Although it's been good news this morning for Celtic. The fact that we're bringing in a brand new director of football thing, Paul Teasdale, to revamp the club football operations. But Ryan Christie, who left Celtic a few years ago, we all know the current position that Caley Thistle find themselves in. They need to find a certain amount of money to save them going into liquidation, like the old Rangers, and hopefully not dying. But then if they do die, and they do go into liquidation, I fully expect them to come back as the Caley Thistle. And if they don't, Scottish football needs to be looking at. So keep an eye on this one, because this is an important one. This will make a mockery of 2012. It will make a complete mockery. And this is why we need to keep an eye on what's going on at Caley Thistle as Celtic fans. Because if Caley Thistle go into their bliss, in the abyss, and then disappear as a club, Scottish football needs to look itself in the eye and think back to what it did in 2020 by allowing a club easy access back into the league situation. But anyway, they've been trying to raise money, and there was an anonymous donation to their GoFund page of £20,000. And it's been said that it was Ryan Christie. Now, we all know that Ryan Christie left Inverness to come to Celtic many moons ago. But his mate says, yep, it was definitely Ryan Christie. Look, the wages that he's on down south, it's a drop in the ocean to him. But he always looks back, and he never forgets his roots, where he came from as a player. And you want to say that that's completely admirable to the one and only Christie. Ryan Christie to donate £20,000. £20,000 is not a drop in the ocean. Do you know what I mean? No matter what wages you're on, you didn't go out and just give away 20 grand for nothing. But I think it's a fantastic gesture for Ryan Christie to do, and that's how we're going to end the video this morning. Hello Australia. There's Australia. Who's in Australia? Angelo's in the house. Angelo, it's 27 Celsius here at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It'll probably be about the same at 4 o'clock in the afternoon here in Spain today, Angelo. And Angelo, if you're around this afternoon, there might be a live, if not today. We're going to get back to doing 3 lives a day once the family goes away on Friday. So, keep an eye out for that. Brand new member, Andreas, who comes in from, if I remember right, it's Holland, is it not? If I remember right. If I don't, apologies. Anyway, it's the first frost of winter. Oh no. The first frost. I'm coming back in November and I'm dreading it. Anyway, that's your Celtic news this morning. Thank you to everyone that's joined. There has been over 560 people on the live this morning. It's currently 146, which is great for an early morning live and getting you ready for the day ahead, getting some Celtic news while you're eating your breakfast. And on that note, I shall see you later on this afternoon. Have a fantastic